Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete, your interweb shop teacher, and this is tips number 837, which is part 3 of a 6-part series that I'm making on the ATLAS gear cutting attachment, and this part 3 is entitled Making the Index Pin Guide. So this is what I have done so far, and we will continue. Remember, there are always blueprints at the end showing at least the part that I'm working on, should anyone would want to make one of these over the next 10 years. So let's begin. So here is the partly finished project. I've done 2 parts, so this is part 3 again. I know I'm repeating, but I made the housing in part 1, and I made the slide part in part 2. So today we're going to continue. There's about 3 or 4 more parts to make, but I'm going to make the block that slides in this slot, as well as the clamping mechanism on the back side. So there's 2 little projects in one in this video. So let's go over and take a look at all the blueprints and review that. This is a drawing of the finished project. Again, the housing is already done, as well as the glide slide, and I'll be making the index pin guide right here today along with the clamp on the back side. Now let's see some dimension drawings. Remember, there's 3 sets of drawings. Those are all shown in part 1 at the end of that video. So today I'm making the index pin guide, so there's just 2 views of that dimensioned, and that is on the Casting Specialties drawing. Let's take a look at the original Atlas drawing. I should have shown this as well. This is the guide lock in 2 views, which I will be making today, but I will be modifying or varying from this actual drawing. Here it is, shown on the original 1939 Atlas drawing, and the guide lock shown on the original Atlas drawing. I started with a piece of square 1.5 inch cold rolled steel that looked like that, and I cut it off to length, and I've already milled and faced it, so we have 1.25 inch by 1 3/16 by 1.5 inch. So I won't show that. You'll have to mill that down yourself. Now I'm going to lay it out according to the drawing, and at least to start with, make this part here. Let's see. Yeah, I guess it's shown in both parts so that it will fit into this slot. Let me lay that out off camera maybe. I have layout die on the worker and the height gauge set for 9/16. Get yourself 2 or more height gauges. They are invaluable. And this is set for 3/16. Okay, I'm at the Bridgeport. The work is on parallels. I got a 7/8 cutter in there. It doesn't really matter too much what size. I'll mill to the line, but I'll approach the line slowly while I measure. But to start with, I'll set the depth of the quill. So I'm going to come down, touch off, lock the quill, back off, and raise the table 180 thousandths. That isn't the final depth. And here we go. Okay, I raised the table to the final depth of 187. I should have done that to start with, and this will be the last pass on this side, which should take me to the line. And I'm climb milling for a better finish. and some of the footage will be sped up. Okay, I'm getting close. Check with the micrometer. I'm at 381, so there's 6 thousandths. I'm going to zero out the digital readout and move 6 thousandths with the table in the longitudinal direction, and this should be my last pass. Matter of fact, I'll just move it 5 and measure it and also check to see if it fits the other part. Creep up on those dimensions and wear your safety glasses. Always turn your machine off when you measure. I'm about 374 actually, so let's try the piece. See if it goes on. And it does. Matter of fact, it's a nice fit. Okay, I can take it out. Now, if I had laid out the other hole here to drill, I would probably do that during this setup, but to be honest with you, I forgot. I have to admit, that is a perfect fit. I did touch it up with a file here just a little bit, and now I got the nice sliding fit that I wanted. Now, I can't understand their design here, why they only went 3/16 deep. I guess it's plenty, but I would have thought they would have made it a little bit deeper this way. Doesn't matter, just my thought. Now I've already laid out the hole. Can you see that? I haven't center punched it yet. I might do that on the mill, haven't decided yet. I did lay it out with the height gauge. Did you watch my video on the world's most accurate height gauge? Question mark. But it wasn't this Chinese aim one, although this is pretty good. Well, I laid this hole out without the benefit of layout die, but there's several layouts on this side, so I am going to do it like this. And this. So there's another hole to be drilled right there, and the two holes do connect. They are different sizes. I'll talk more about them in a minute, but you got a little bit more layout to do here, and that is the angles. I'm laying out those 30-degree angles, so I'm using a steric protractor here, and they make two different kinds, but if you have the kind where the blade runs through the head like that, you don't have to change it. Set it at 30 degrees, mark one side, and then flip it over and you can mark the other side. So I do prefer this one, although it's bulky, but you can use whatever you got. There's a better shot. I deepened and darkened the lines just a little bit. Back to the Bridgeport. Now, you do not have to do all your drilling on a milling machine. You can use a drill press if you want. I prefer to do it on a milling machine. It's just so much more precise. And off camera, I use the edge finder to locate the hole. Even though I already had a layout, I often do double duty like that. It prevents a lot of mistakes, and I'm doing it for instructional purposes as well. So with the center drill in there, I will go ahead and spot the hole. And when you do that, you can see that the tip of the center drill, or I can see the tip of the center drill, was exactly on the layout line. So it's kind of a double whammy there for protection. Now, I like to lay out my cutting tools as well. This is one size under quarter. This is a 1/4 inch reamer. This is a 3/8 drill. So I'm going to start by drilling 1/4 inch all the way through, and then I'm going to counterbore with this, and then I will ream. Why am I waiting till the end to ream? Because that way there'll be plenty of clearance. I'm not reaming a hole that's 1.25 inches long or deep. Lately I've been using the DeWalt drill with this that I made years ago, and it's just so much faster to raise and lower the table. Like that. Takes some of the pain away, doesn't it? Don't drill into your parallels. Ask me how I know. Leave a comment if you want. Now a 3/8 hole, 1 inch deep. So look what I've done here. I come down and touch the work. There's so many ways to do this, and I'm using a Joe block simply because I have it to space it out. It doesn't need to be accurate, and that's overkill, I know. I'm just showing you different ways of doing things. And let's drill. Now I will ream 1/4, the balance of that hole. I don't know why they're calling for reaming. It's probably overkill again. Done. Well, now I have one more hole to drill. But Mr. Pete, why did you lay it out on that side? It should have been on the other side. Well, I know. Well, you weren't looking. I relayed it out on the correct side. I told you that I'm certifiably incompetent. So let me set it up, and I'll be back to drill that hole presently. Using the edge finder, I located the hole. The drawing calls for a 1/4 28. That's a fine thread, so this is a number 3 drill, and I'm drilling down until it meets the other hole. This is a plug tap, and I'm going to power tap down just about halfway so that I am sure that the thread will be straight, and then I'll finish up in the bench vise with a hand tap wrench so that I do not bottom out and break that tap. Slow speed. Good enough. Then I take it out. Like that, and I'll take it over to the bench and finish it off. I'm not going to show that. This old shop teacher is just about done with this piece except for milling those 2 angles on there. Now I've laid them out at 30 degrees. And they will meet up there at the, is that the apex? I'm not sure. But rather than just use the layout lines, you know, I'm double checking everything, I guess. I don't want to have to do it over. This is a 30-degree angle block. So with a clean vise, laying that down in there, I will attempt to, if I can get my hands out of the way. Actually, I need 2 hands, but the whole idea here is I'm resting this on the angle plate, and it's a little bit wobbly because I'm only catching it on a small portion. Maybe I should have done that earlier. And then I'll tighten the vise down, and I'm ready to mill, and I'll just show one side. Did I say that already? And the alternate way of doing that, if you do not have angle blocks, and you probably don't, is you can see the layout line there if it's accurate, and lay a parallel or a rule or whatever is the right thickness until you get the layout line parallel with the spacer. This has to be a spacer because you do not want to hit the vise with your cutter, so the layout line is above the vise. Let's go. Okay, that's it. I'll do the other side off camera. Identical. Well, there it is. Looks good. It looks like a red barn with a round hayloft, doesn't it? Kind of cute, cozy. So I will deburr and clean it up, and this is done. Again, this is called the index pin guide, and then in the second third, or I should say in the last portion of the video, I will make that other lock. That should be rather simple compared to this. Hope you enjoyed the video so far. Okay, for the second part of this video, I'll be making the guide lock that looks like this. And here is a dimension drawing, and I'll show you the other two drawings right now as well. This is the Casting Specialties version. And here is the original Atlas version from 1939, and I might vary just a little bit from all of these prints. So the whole purpose of this part is simply to lock this into position, and in fact you probably wouldn't even need to make this part. You could just use a 1/4-28 cap screw. It would need to be a little shorter than this, and when used in conjunction with a fender washer or maybe two washers, you could lock this into position, because in fact during each setup you only need to lock this one time. It isn't something you're constantly doing throughout the job. This is 1/2-inch leaded screw stock. I just love using this material. I always paint it purple on the ends so I can identify it. And I've already laid out a line here, 7/8 from the end, and I'll turn that down to 250 thousandths, and I'm going to thread it on the lathe using a die like this. Now the drawing calls for an undercut there. There is no need for that. The purpose was so that you could thread close to the shoulder, but since we're using a washer and the fact that this part is recessed a little bit, really eliminates the need for that undercut, which is a weak point and a pain in the neck to make. Again, I'm using that wonderful diamond tool, and I'll take it down to 1/4 inch. I have a stop already set. I love this method of putting a thread onto small work using the die, this time in the headstock, because it's a hex die, and the workpiece is held in the Jacob's chuck in the tailstock. You cannot see that. Do not clamp the tailstock. It must be free to slide. And I'm in back gears, low speed. I will be using generous quantities of oil. And it's also important to note that on every die there is a side that you should start from. Sometimes it is marked. This one says start from this side. If it does not say that on the die, examine it and look at the tapered side. That will help you greatly. You also will note that I chamfered the end of the workpiece. And now back it out in reverse. I'll speed it up as I do that. How was that? See how nice that thread turned out? And it didn't go all the way up to the shoulder, and it will not matter for this application. Now, also notice that I have not cut this off yet. Don't cut it off and paint yourself into a corner. But this mark is where I will cut it off when I'm done. But we need a cross hole in there on that mark as shown on the drawing, and that's to be an 1/8 inch hole. Now, everyone has their favorite method for drilling a cross hole. I'm going to use the ever popular Heinrich cross hole drill jig, and that's an 1/8 inch bushing. I'll drill right through it, and it will perfectly center that within the shaft. Make sure you go to an effort here and you do not just freehand it, because you can never get it on center and you spoil the work and it looks ugly. Okay, it works every time. It gets you right on center. There's the 1/8 inch bit. Get yourself one of those, although they're probably $1,000 if you could even find one. Now the game plan here is I'm going to cut it off on the line, put it back in the lathe, and face and chamfer the end. And then in the drawing it calls for a piece of 1/8 inch rod pressed in there or held in with Loctite, but I'm going to use the ever popular 1/8 inch, 1.5 inch long roll pin or spring pin, whatever you call them. Okay, it's faced to the layout line, generously chamfered, polished a little bit, and countersunk there to help me get this started. I'll put a drop of oil on and drive this in, hopefully without putting any marks on it, to about the halfway point, and I'll be right back. For best results, use your Vaughan 16-ounce ball peen hammer and your Starrett bench block and drive it home. You know, I had a laugh. When I was 10 years old, I'd be making a model airplane and we had the wrong kind of glue. And I said, Mom, the directions say for best results use Chester's glue. And she says, nonsense, honey. They all lie. It could matter less what glue you use. It is a commodity. Well, there it is. Let's fit it up and see. Now again, you can use any washer. I just happen to have a couple of these in stock left from a job with a 1/4 inch hole, but it is aluminum. I don't think it could matter any less, could it? And now you will see why that undercut was redundant and unnecessary. But for best results, yeah, right. Looks pretty nice, doesn't it? But do it any way you feel like. Not sure I like that big cloddy old knob on there. I might change that at a later date. Well, that completes part 3 of this long 6-part video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next part when available. This is Mr. Pete saying so long for now. Stand by for just a few still pictures. Give me a thumbs up and a like if you feel I deserve it. So long for now. See you next time.